Welcome to my oil and charcoal video, which I've sped up for you. That's old piece of watercolor paper. That's the picture that I'm going to be using, and I'm drawing with willow charcoal. You can see I've taped it down with masking tape, and that'll give us a lovely edge. And the picture doesn't matter that much. I'm just getting a scene down and putting down the shapes. Now I'm filling in the tone. You can see the nature of the work. I decided to shift those trees a little bit. They were too much in the center, and I'm not being very precious about the work at the moment, just filling in shapes of tone. And you'll see as the picture progresses, this will all be adjusted as we go. So just blocking in pretty loosely the areas of tone, adding in a couple of more ridges. Doesn't matter at this stage what's trees and what's shadows. I'm just looking at the overall effect of the darks and lights. I'm now organizing my oil and cotton wool, and you can see very quickly, just use the oil in a little lid, and I am working the oil into the charcoal, spreading it onto the paper, as you can see, smudging it in. I am leaving some not affected. I'm leaving some white paper as well, but I'm smudging up into a grey sky for later. And I'm working back in with more charcoal. This is still my willow charcoal, and the watercolor paper is grabbing it quite nicely. I'm reinforcing the darks, maybe adding a few more bits now. Looking at my thirds. There's some bush in the front, on that front left-hand section, tiny trees in the back, so you can see the landscape forming. But it's about building up the layers of texture and the layers of dark and light. So I'm mostly going over where I've been before, but adding a few more bits and pieces. And there's my oil again, nice dirty piece of cotton wool. So you can see it's leaving a darker image, and the actual strokes I'm using create different effects. Sometimes it's rubbing, sometimes it's dabbing. And again, I've left some charcoal loose. Not loose, but not touched with the oil. Adding some finger work there as well. I'm going backwards and forwards with the oil when I want and charcoal when I want. That's adding in some compressed charcoal. It's a bit darker than the willow. You can see it rubs back quite easily when you need to. I go over the edge of the masking tape. So rub your oil and you'll do your charcoal strokes right over the edge so that when you lift it up, you leave a nice white edge. I'm paying attention to that tiny little highlight across that front hill. And now I'm adding some color. That's a terracotta Conti. And that's just to add a little bit of interest, and also to give it the aerial effect of the reds, the warm reds coming forward. They are less intense going back. I'm not putting any other colors in. Here comes my heavy charcoal again, my compressed charcoal. And now a charcoal pencil, which gives me lovely texture on the bush on the left, on those trees. And you can see this is when you start adding a bit of textural detail, firming up some of the marks you've put down before, laying the compressed charcoal on its side to add a few grasses, They don't exist in the original picture. I've probably started ignoring that picture and just working on what this one looks like. So playing with the charcoal and the bits of cotton wool with the oil as I need to. That's me just wiping my hands on a rag. I'm using a kneadable eraser there to try and lift off some of the tone. So lightening that middle section. That is a battery operated eraser. And I'm trying to lift off a little bit more. It's not being particularly successful. Sometimes it is, but it is successful in that dark patch to add some nice white texture or light texture of the branches and things. Putting more dark in with the color, having some raw textured color showing as well. The eraser is working nicely to knock back the back section. This is a very, very fine click eraser, tiny end to it, a bit like a clutch pencil, to try and add some more textural bits. And a white pencil, white charcoal pencil, which once again didn't work very well. Mopping back or smoothing back the background. So all the texture's in the foreground and the light is in the background. And you can see as the paper comes away, it does pick up some of the paper, the original paper, but it leaves a beautiful clean edge, and even my sky's got a gorgeous edge.